Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest from not that far away. I guess, kind of a rival city. At least let me put you in the middle, in Chicago. We consider New York a rival city. I don't know if it's true the inverse, but welcome to the show. So to get started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Yeah. My name's Joey, and I work with one other person on a game called Some Goodbyes We Made, which is kind of like a mini game collection about goodbyes. So me and my collaborator both kind of do everything. We make all the games, and we kind of just like silos. I'll make one game, Hal will make another. I should say the other collaborator is Al, who's in time great to design. So yeah.
No, so immediately what drew me to that was this. So like the mini game collections obviously are a very interesting beast. I think most commonly people think of something like WarioWare, but obviously you guys are kind of songs is something decently different. Immediately, kind of when you were thinking of mini games or as something to add to this, what is the binding element to you that goes, oh, this belongs in this project versus like, oh, this is something so different that it needs to be changed?
Yeah, it's a good question, and kind of a hard one to pin down. I guess I should say like how the project started was so How and I met at the NYU Game Center MFA program, and so this was our thesis game, um, and uh, we were trying to make what we called a big game. Normally we make small games. We were trying to make a big game about goodbyes, and it just kind of wasn't working. We were kind of banging our head against a wall for many months, probably like 9 months. And then one of our advisors was basically like, why don't you just make a mini game collection since that's kind of what we do? So we took a bunch of actually pre-existing small games that we had made, um, and kind of curated it to say, well, these fit together, these don't fit together. We still kind of focused on the goodbye theme. Um, and so the binding element was kind of something we weren't conscious of out of the gate, I guess I would say. It was like I really feel, honestly, the binding element is it's kind of a perk of being a small team is Hal and I both have our styles and they're compatible styles and um, any HAL game's going to work next to any HAL game, and same for mine. And our games are pretty compatible together as well. So that's kind of how it started. I think it just kind of worked because, uh, it's our voices. But adding to the collection is kind of a challenge because we're kind of consciously aware of what's already there, um, and makes it a harder kind of thing to think through.
Yeah, that's a it just becomes like and it feels like it just becomes like a very rough challenge of like how is it because like what I really like about especially the collection like what's kind of showing off I have your same picture on a monitor and I really like the visual difference between a bunch of them and that has to be this kind of
Mhm.
thing I assume also you guys are watching too of like oh like is it too similar is it too different so real question were there ideas that you guys thought of and like maybe had to retool or to scrap because it was too similar to something that already existed in there, or have you guys been pretty good about like once you get further down a process, like it tends to become a beast of its own?
I think it tends to become a beast of its own. Also, real quick, I should also say we do have a third person, Biambi, who's also based in Taiwan, who does all of our art. She's great. And has tried to do like a unique style for each game. I should say that. But yeah, I think they all kind of become a beast of their own. I can't think of any time where we've started on a game and it became too similar to another one.
No, that sounds great. So
Yeah, I
I was
no, 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 please, yeah.
I was just gonna say we're kind of walk around games. Do you mind kind of digging into it? My next thing I was gonna dig into is obviously there are 11 games in this collection. I'm not saying walk through all of them, but like, is there one or two that we feel like you'd like to walk through, kind of or like what the player does, kind of give a better idea, kind of what we could be experiencing on these collections?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's kind of funny. A lot of these I feel have to be played to kind of understand the kind of the hook. But so one game is it's a singing game. So you're graduating from high school, um, and you're performing a song as kind of the closing ceremony. And basically, you can choose to sing well and focus on the song, and then the music will kind of play normally, or you can focus on your memories with your friends, and then you'll get all of these like memories popping up that you can see, but the audio will like glitch out and stuff because you're starting to like cry over your song. And it was kind of inspired by uh, actually Howe's graduation ceremony, where basically it didn't end until everyone like put their hand down, and so there was like this like collective thing kind of keeping it going or whatever.
And
So
did you say so? Like,
yeah,
is that like a cultural thing, or is that just like a something in like his school that like just like people just kind of put their arm up and it just doesn't go down until everyone puts it down?
I think it was just like some guy got up on the stage, ran. I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think it was just like, hey, we're gonna do this. Um,
That's one of those great. It's funny because like that is one of those great like sometimes it happens to you type stories, and I could see also in a game where something like that like comes like a fun little like I was like, what is going on? Like type reaction.
yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah, totally. Um,
Are all of these kind of pulled from some level of personal experiences, or are there any that kind of like you guys read about or kind of pulled from other stuff too?
yeah, some are pulled from personal experiences, some aren't. Yeah, so another like personal one was is another How game about him moving to the U.S. For the master's program in New York. And yeah, you just it's like a point and click game kind of thing. So that's a personal one, and then some are a lot more abstract. So there's one that Hal and I collaborated on called Quick Character Creator, where um, you basically build out this character through a series of like binary questions. So it starts and it's like, is it a cube or a sphere? And then so it starts kind of abstract. Uh, I don't know. Yeah. And then it kind of slowly gets more personal. So,
I think I
eventually it'll
saw that one kind
say,
of floating between your screens. Where you start is it what you start with kind of like you say you start with like a cube kind of going.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, eventually you kind of build this goofy looking guy. Yeah, and then it'll ask like, how old were they when they fell in love? Like right now or 10 years ago? And do they want to restart their life? Stuff like that.
So when you guys
And
are
so, yeah.
As when you guys are working these games, then do you have like a I want these games to be X long or anything, or is it kind of like hey, it was a collection? Well, okay, if some are 5 minutes and some are 2 hours, kind of is there some sort of any guidance there? You guys thinking of?
Think there's any guidance. I think the game just ends when it ends. But definitely, I would say most are short. I think it's nice to have a kind of variety within a range of lengths. Probably 10 minutes or so would be the max before it starts to feel like a centerpiece of the game, which would be okay, but it just has to be the right game if that's true.
Oh, that's a very interesting. Cause I've done like mini games like that, but I've never done like a collection like that, and I've always like it's one of those that always sounds like a very fun challenge to me, and it's interesting kind of how you guys have this of like here's this collection, but like this base thesis is this like very serious like hey let's talk about like kind of it's almost empathy kind of is like your selling point of this game, and I'm kind of curious kind of as you guys were digging this then too as we talked before everything kind of at least worked out where it's been kind of unique you guys have your own style but they work really well together. Were there any like games or activities kind of that you guys were thinking about or trying to prototype that turn into something that like this is really fun, but like it just doesn't fit our theme? To any of that stuff kind of run into it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so I don't think quite that happened. Well, sort of. So for sure, we've thrown out games. So for example, like I said, it started out by we just took a lot of our existing games, said, well, this kind of works together. And then the more we kind of sat with it, there were a few that we said, well, this doesn't really fit, so we kind of threw it out. But it wasn't a game that like we had newly made for the collection that said it doesn't fit. And then we've also had instances where we're starting on an idea and it just kind of doesn't come together to a point that we're happy with, and so we'll throw that as well. But I don't think we've started on a new game and threw it out because it doesn't fit the theme. I think we kind of um, I don't think we'd start on the game, I guess, if we thought it wouldn't fit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's always that fun challenge of like, is it theme first, is it activity first? I just wasn't sure because like something like this is always that fun balance of like, how do we? Because you're talking about such hard topics, but obviously you're not sitting there and like just actively like passively doing things. So it's always this fun balance there, and that's when I was like, it's interesting because like even that game you came from was like you talk about like that person creator that one, and that to me is like a oh that's interesting because like without knowing the theme, you can see how that game could work in a lot of different themes, and that's why I was like, oh, I'm curious, kind of where that comes from. So, but yeah, no, that's
Yeah, yeah, and there are some that are yeah, some are looser than others. Like some like I said, there's the one about how moving to the US, that's very, very directly um clearly and explicitly about a goodbye. And then some are fuzzier. Like there's one about like a New Year's party, and that's saying goodbye to a new year, but it's a kind of different sort of goodbye. Or there's the quick character creator game where at the end you kind of have to say goodbye to this character, but most of the game is yeah. So some are more direct or fuzzy. Yeah.
were there any that's interesting. With any thoughts you guys had of like, because obviously these goodbyes come out of like these like solidified events, right? Of like a set school event, a New Year's. Were there any weird goodbyes you thought of like when you see someone passing on the street and you have that one interaction in that goodbye? Or any of those like smaller moments, or do you guys kind of really think of these like almost anchoring events throughout life?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know that it's so much about anchoring events. I think we wanted a variety of sorts of goodbyes that exist throughout life. For example, the New Year one was like, well, some goodbyes are happy. Maybe you're sick of this year, and there's kind of this beautiful ritual about letting go of that, and that's definitely a goodbye, but it's a different sort of goodbye than the others. So there was kind of a conscious effort to create that variety. As for um, um, like meeting a stranger, I don't think we have anything on strangers actually. Um,
Hmm.
but the closest thing I think maybe we have to what you're talking about is you're like walking down a road, you're gonna say goodbye to each other at the end, and so you're kind of talking, and then you get to the end, you say goodbye, and then they're like, "Oh, actually, I'm going that way too," and then
That's
you
okay.
keep
That's a good
going
one.
together.
That's the
They're
good
like,
classic goodbye of the. Oh goodbye. Oh wait, no, we're walking another mile
exactly,
together.
yeah.
No, that is a perfect goodbye. So as we are talking, it is the end of August. Your game is set to come out tail end of October. Are you guys still on track for that? Is that kind of still what you're feeling?
Yeah, yeah, that's still what we're feeling. And we're gonna try and get a demo out actually in August 15. So we'll see if we hit that.
Oh no, that sounds great. When you're saying a demo, then are you just gonna kind of give a splattering of the games, I assume, versus because you really can't give them all, I assume, from a demo point of view.
Yeah, I think it'll be three.
Perfect. I gotta ask also kind of because as you guys are getting to the tail end of development here, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Is the team kind of at least at that level of like stress, but like still functioning?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not too bad. I think we've paced it out in a way that ensures we're not super stressed.
No, that sounds great. So again, the game we talk about is Some Goodbyes We Made. You can currently wishlist it on Steam. Go do that. You're part of Safe Flight Games. Uh, what kind of after this is there any kind of projects you guys are working on or thinking about at the time, or is it kind of all hands on deck on this project currently?
All hands on deck. Yeah, figure out what's next when we get there.
Perfect. Hey, I don't know. Some people, as much as I agree with you, probably at this point you should be all hands deck. There's always people always have like something in the back, and I always feel like kind of ready or thinking about kind of to get to a tail end of a project. So, but again, thank you for talking to me today. As we kind of get to the end, I wanted to leave with you. Is there anything on the game that you feel we missed? You want to talk about anything you want to shout out on it? Kind of. If I said the floor is yours, what is there anything else kind of on this game slash experiences that really stand out to you?
Huh. I don't know. I feel like we kind of covered most the full gamut of it, honestly. Yeah, I think
Or,
you asked good questions.
thank you. Well, again, if you will clarify, remember this is a collection of 11 mini games that vary apparently from like moments to it seems like quite a few minutes. So sounds like a fun experience coming out in October. So again, thank you for talking to me today, and best of luck as you guys are finishing up development during. Let's be honest, a lot of times the roughest part of development is this kind of back end. So, but it's also the most rewarding. So best of luck to you, and hopefully, it kind of all comes together.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks so much for having me.